Okay, and welcome to another tutorial of the Xcode's learning platform. So, in this tutorial we're gonna talk about Xcode. So, Xcode is the main IDE for the Apple platform, and with Xcode we actually built our applications like for macOS, iOS, watchOS, tvOS, and so on. So in this tutorial I'm going to give you a nice walkthrough to Xcode. We're going to talk about all the different panels, we're going to talk about all the different stuff we can do, and it's going to be pretty cool. So we're going to open up Xcode and we're going to create a new Xcode project, and in this case we're going to click on the app and we're going to save this as our test Xcode. Gonna save this. Yeah, sure. I'm still running beta software on the Mac, so sometimes it doesn't work. Xcode is actually number 12. Okay, so welcome to Xcode. The first thing we notice is how actually really nice the dark colors look. Pretty cool. So first thing we're going to talk about, on the left side you have our application hierarchy. So in this hierarchy you actually see all the controllers, all the views and everything that we're gonna need for our app. Above there we have like a really small navigation. Over here we have the source control. So for example you use GitHub for pushing your code to GitHub or to do source control itself. Really interesting. On the side there we have our symbol navigator. I don't really use this, but it's really easy when you are looking for a function that you're working on. Here we have the search. So in this case we can search for text. So when we go in default, as you can see, you can actually use Xcode to search through all your code. Pretty funny. This is our error page, so the issue navigator. Then we have the test navigator. So let's say when you are running an iOS app or macOS app and you are testing it, here you actually are going to see the all the information like memory usage, CPU usage, and so on. Over here the debug navigator. So when you have we have like bugs or problems or warnings or errors. This is our breakpoint navigator. So let's say you add a breakpoint to your code. They're all really nice and organized over here. And last but not least, it's gonna be the report. The report group. So here you have like all the stuff that is happening. So where you build, where you run, or when it crashes, you actually see everything in here. Pretty cool. So on top here we have the run button and a stop button. This is for our simulators. We're going to talk about that in a while as well. Then we have like the simulator that we are going to run. In this case I'm going to select an iPhone 11. And over here we have a little bit of small like a breadcrumb, so that you actually know where you're working. Pretty funny. And then over here we have like the code, the coding part. So this is where you can code and where you can write all your code that you're gonna do, that you're gonna use. Here on the right side we have like on the top we have like a plus. That is actually the library. And for library, this is something that we are going to use for our storyboards in future tutorials, where we're going to build the UI with storyboards. And this is actually where you find everything. Pretty cool. Over here we have the separate code editor. So that means that, for example, we're going to open the view controller. You actually see on both sides, this is the local version and this is what is worked on. Pretty funny. We're going to turn this off again. And down here we have like two small buttons as well. here we have like editor options, so when you want a canvas, an assistant, a layout, and so on. Over here we can open our second part where we are on the stuff we are working on. So in this case I opened the main.storyboard, and on this side we have the view controller. And when we want to close, we just press the small X button here, and it's gone. So on the right side here we have a menu, and this menu is actually this is like a lot of information also when you work with storyboards. In this case, this is the identity inspector or the file inspector. Then we have the history inspector. So here you can see like all the commits you are doing or all the code you are changing. Pretty cool. Over here we have the quick help inspector. This is so when you want to search some documentation. Xcode actually has like its own built-in documentation. It's pretty massive actually. It's really big, and here you can actually search for all the references. You also have like SwiftUI, and you can actually use documentation to teach yourself how to code. Pretty funny. In the future we're actually gonna build some tutorials where I teach you guys how to read it, what we can do with it, and it's gonna be pretty impressive. And last but not least, on this side is the attributes inspector. There is nothing there yet, but it actually shows you all the attributes that you are using. In this case, because we didn't do anything yet, you won't see anything. So, and now we're going to the main event, that is our main.storyboard. So let's go over there. So in iOS and also macOS and in watchOS and tvOS, you have like two separate ways on building a UI. So the first thing you can do is using storyboards. With storyboards, it's like a little bit like WYSIWYG. So what you see is what you get, and this means, so let's try it out. We go to our library, and in here we're gonna search for a text field. So, and we're gonna drag this one on the canvas. As you can see now, we have like, when we zoom in a little bit, we have like a text field. And there's also, we can also do this with a label. So we go back to the library, we're gonna call label, gonna drag it in here, and we're gonna give this a name of our first app. Oh, pretty cool. So we drag this into the middle, and as you can see, now we're actually building our app, and in here we have like, this is the canvas, as you can see, and in here you also see like how it should look, right? And we also have like another stuff. So let's say the slider, let's drag that one on here as well. So the slider, you probably know when you work with iOS what it is. It's for like adjusting stuff. I'm sure you have seen this one before. And another one is the switch. Oh, the switch, this is something Apple actually did. So like where you turn it on and turn it off. Pretty cool. And then here on the side you can see like the quick help. So that's like all the information about this UI switch in this case. And when we click on the first one, that is the file inspector, yeah, you see like a lot of more information. And here you can like change the type what you are doing. You can look here at the full path, so where it's saved, resource tags, and so on. You can also check in which Xcode you're working. And then we have, over here we have the show history inspector. So that's the same inspector that we talked about, that when you make changes you can actually see what you're doing, the help. And over here we have the identity inspector, and with the identity inspector you can actually add different identities to the stuff you're working on. So for example, you have like this UI switch, and instead of green you want it to be blue. You can create a different class, you add that class, and then it's blue. It's pretty amazing. So Then we have over here, we have our attributes inspector, and here we can actually change some settings if you want to. Then over here we have like the view itself. So in this case you can work with different kinds of margins. So in this case everything is centered, and here you have like the frame, so where it is like standing on, so where you can see it. It's pretty cool, pretty funny. And even when you change this, you can see that it's that it's changing on the screen. Pretty cool. And down here we have like other attributes. So in this case we have the embed in view, updated. Here we have our constraints. So when you want to build a UI, you actually constrain everything. And the reason why you constrain it is so that it looks nice in an app. So for example, we build like a really nice app, like with a table view and with some sliders. You want everything to look nice, beautiful, and great, right? And with margins and with constraints, this is actually something that you can do. Now, something else in here is alignment constraints. So when you want to align it horizontally and vertically in a container, so it stays centered. And last but not least is update frames. This is something where you add like new constraints. You can update the frame itself. It's pretty interesting. Sorry, I have to close down my Discord because people don't leave me alone. Okay, pretty cool. So let's see, what are we going to talk about over here? On the left side we have a new bar there. That is our view controller scene. And that's like a hierarchy of all the stuff that we are adding on the canvas. So in this case we have the view. We have a save area. So the save area, that is for like the notch and everything. And over here we have actually our attributes that we have added to our canvas. Pretty cool actually. Now first responder and exit, that is something we don't really have to work with. Because yeah. What you also can do, when we go down here, we click on view as iPhone 11. Here you can actually choose the machine you are working on. So in this case we are working on iPhone 11. But what happens when we choose an iPad? Takes a little while. As you can see, now we are using X of an iPad canvas, and on the iPad canvas it all looks like scrambled again. And that is because iPads have like bigger screen resolutions and everything. And it's exactly the same when we put it on. We can also work in horizontal mode if you want to. And it's the same with iPhone. So for example, let's take the iPhone SE 2 over here. Now it's like really small, right? You don't see everything anymore. And this is a little bit what you can do with the canvas, because not all phones are built in portrait mode. A lot of apps also have to look nice when they're laying down, and this is something that you actually can do with it, because you can add favorite traits, and then you can add like different values actually, in which you can build your UI. So let's say the UI has to look this nice on the iPhone, which is standing up, but when it's laying down, so in horizontal mode, you can actually add some extra information to it. It's pretty interesting. So let's start up a simulator, and then we're gonna look what we can do there. So we're gonna, above here, we're gonna select the iPhone 11. We're gonna press our run button, and this takes a few seconds. And as you can see here, there's some simulator popping up. And as you can see, I still have my simulator in the horizontal way, because I was building a game. Okay, so now we have it in the right way. So what this actually does, now you are simulating iOS inside macOS, so you can test your iOS app. It's pretty cool. Pretty powerful as well. One thing I want to say when you work with the simulator and your app is like a little bit buggy in the simulator, or it doesn't run really smooth, a simulate is not a good way of measuring performance. That is something I want you guys to think about. And this takes an awfully long time to run actually. Okay, let's see if we can do something inside here while it's running. So another thing we can talk about is the assets folder. In here you can put all your assets that you're using, like videos, music, images, app icons. For Apple has like rules in which we have to put our icons. So we have like 40 times 40 px, 60 times 60, and so on. When you are designing an app and an app icon, make sure you keep all the you add like all the sizes that they ask for, because otherwise you can't push your app to the App Store, and it's bad user practice, so don't do that. Then we also have the launch screen over here. This is like the screen you see the first time you start up the game. You can since iOS 14 you can add some really nice animations and stuff like that as well. Pretty cool. And also something we can do is like the info.plist. The info.plist is like a system or like a list where you can add extra information about the app, where you can adapt stuff. For example, where you work with different kinds of functions. I once had like this. I once built like an ad blocker app, and I had to add some extra information to the info.plist to get it to work. It's exactly the same way you work with when you work with Firebase, for example, or with Facebook SDK. When you work with that, you actually have to add extra stuff to the info.plist, or you have to download a custom info.plist to get that stuff to work. This is like really small security measures put in by Apple. Not everybody is a really big fan of it. I don't mind, but just extra safety. So as you can see, our iPhone has started up. As you can see here, we can actually interact with the stuff that we put here on the screen, like our text field, hello world. Pretty cool. And it also has like buttons over here, so you can turn on the value, you can turn it down, you can lock it, silent mode. With this you can try it out. With here you can do like a swipe, where you put the mouse in here, you can do a swipe, and now you are on the home screen. And this is a little bit how you can like use iOS apps on the Mac by simulating them into the simulator. And this is how we test apps. So for example, I was building a game called Zombie Conga. It's a game from Ray Wenderlich with something that I'm testing. So the idea is that you catch as many cats as possible without being hit by the cat lady. So as you can see, it still is a little bit buggy because the cat lady should have killed my zombie. The zombie is still running around. It's a really fun pretty game. It's nothing special. And now we are running this. Let's go to the tab where we see our information. Here it is. So we go to our debug navigator, and here you can actually see a little bit how much resources the app is running. Because the Xcode is running on an Intel Core i7 with 6 cores, you see 0% CPU usage because the game is too light to actually use the full potential of the CPU. Pretty cool. So let's close it off. I've been gaming enough. And now we can press here the off button, we can turn it on again. We are back in the game. And when you want to turn it off, or you can call Siri first as well. Pretty cool. And now you can turn it off. And at the end where you want to close it down, you click the close button. pretty cool. So this was a little walkthrough to Xcode. Of course, there's a lot more to see here, but I don't want to make tutorials too long. Somewhere next week we're also going to build an actual login UI from our DevScorch learning platform for the iOS app. We're going to build this one in Xcode using main.storyboard. We're going to work with text fields, we're going to use with buttons, and we're going to do some custom UI with UIKit. And it's going to be pretty interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you back here sometimes. Have a good night.